Good morning everyone and welcome on board this live safari. My name is Scott and I'm teamed up with Dave on camera. As I just said, this is a live safari. We are coming to you 100% live from the Sabi sands in South Africa, and a little bit later you'll get to meet some of the crew who's all the way up in Kenya in the Masai Mara. Now, some exciting prospects. We are following up on the scene of a kill where a leopardess and her two young cub, or her two kills rather, and her one young cub were left late yesterday evening. So that's something to look forward to. If any of you would like to ask questions, you can do that very easily using hashtag Safari Live, and we would love to hear from you. Now, what I was looking for was a branch dropped on the road, which was going to indicate to me where I should start driving off-road, but I didn't see the branch that I was told to look for. So maybe I just drove here a little bit too quickly and I was a little bit too excited. Speaking of excitement, there is something that you should all look forward to and start spreading the word about. It is Safari Bingo, and basically the winner of the Safari Bingo will win a trip for two to somewhere in Africa. Yes, somewhere. It's very mysterious because we're not telling you where exactly, but it'll be exciting, no doubt. Now, the Safari Bingo starts on Sunday the 4th of February, so please be ready for that, and it's going to be during a bout of TV shows on Nat Geo Wild in the US. So, start practicing your bingo, everyone, because there's obviously a wonderful prize on the cards there. Now, I'm guessing I've gone a little bit too far south, so I'm going to turn around and head back in the direction we came and hopefully work out where this leopard, the kill, and her cub are. Very good. You guys are going to be heading all the way up to Kenya to join Jamie on her safari. I'm not too sure exactly what she's up to, but I'm sure she'll let you know now.
From South Africa to the Masai Mara, a very, oh goodness gracious, light flashing before my eyes. A very good morning to all of you. My name is Jamie, and this morning the man responsible for strobe lighting me is Adrian. I'm just joking, Adrian. It's all good. We're all good. And we are live from the Masai Mara here in Kenya. Don't forget, hashtag Safari Live is how you can get a hold of us. Why am I racing? Well, because I am desperate to catch up with Malaika and her two boys again. So we had them yesterday on the Sunset Safari. That makes no sense if you're a new viewer. Malaika is a cheetah with two young boys. There we go. Okay, so we've clarified that. And yesterday we were with them, and just as it was time for us to leave, they got up and they started, it was odd, she started moving to where I could see animals panicking, and my gut instinct said lion. Anyway, we had to leave, long story short, I didn't want to. And I got a message from the Mara Meru Cheetah Project, Elena. She messaged me to say that she was with me in the sighting, that they'd walked straight into a lion, been chased, separated, and she'd left them just as they found each other once again. So I promised, for three reasons, I would go and catch up with Malaika. One, I really like Malaika. Two, I want to see if they're okay after that night. And three, I need to try and collect her scat for research purposes. Things planned on the National Reserve side of the Mara River. Now let's send you across the Mara River, without having to do the perilous crossings of course, to Taylor McCurdy, who is out in the Triangle.
It's probably better that way, that we avoid crossings, Jamie, as well. I might get stuck in one and then reclaim my title of Marshmallow Queen. But we're not. We're up high on the escarpment, far away from the river. But we're going to be heading down there shortly. And, well, dawn isn't quite broken just yet. The sun hasn't risen. It's still very donker, as Craig just said, which means dark in Afrikaans. He just surprised us with that word. Good morning again. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me is Craig, aka Batman, aka Cutthroat Craig, or call him whatever you like. He normally responds. Now remember, this is a live and interactive safari, so hashtag Safari Live or chat to us via the YouTube chat. But it is a beautiful day. Now we're going to keep going. We're just coming down on the escarpment road now, so I haven't really had a chance to suss out my surroundings. The only thing that I know for sure is that there were many tree hierarchs in camp last night, but they seemed to be chatting away this morning, which is quite nice. So sorry for everybody that was trying to sleep in today. We are going to go, I think we're going to follow this road down, maybe see if we can find out where the ololololololololo lions are. If they've gone into the forest, it'll be a bit of a problem, but we'll give it a bash. However, I think that they may start their journey back to, well, a little bit further to the east. Normally when they've killed something up here on the escarpment, they go down again, you know, take their time, but eventually do a big full circuit around. And so we'll try. And hopefully we'll find some lions. That's going to be my goal today. I think we need to see a lion hunt, and they were hungry. No, like Jamie said before, let's go that side of the river without doing any of the crossings. Jamie's, of course, the cheetah queen of Africa.
Wow, that's quite a title. The Cheetah Queen of Africa. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to try very hard to live up to that. I'll take the title for now, just because I'm where the cheetah are. But it's a nice little story that's wrapped itself up here. These two young spotted hyena are obviously, first of all, not cheetah. But they do explain the presence of that hyena yesterday. Now, yesterday, Malika and her two boys were being followed by a hyena, and apparently had been followed the entire day by that same hyena, never getting too close, just following them. And I think we have the answer as to why. Now, of course, that the instant thought that most people follow is, oh, the hyena just wants to steal their next meal, which is probably not far off the mark, but there was an additional reason here. There's probably a den site. These are very, very young cubs. Not obviously at the stage where they're wobbly and without their spots, but a little bit too young to be moving away from the den site too frequently. They're just at that age where they might start following the adults to kills, and they might be a little bit more independent, but they're probably still coming back to the den, which means there most likely is a den somewhere around here. Now, a cheetah that came upon an unguarded hyena cub would absolutely kill it. It is, and well, I mean, depending on the circumstances, if it could get to it, but it is one of those natural predator instincts. You know, one less hyena that's going to steal your meal one day. So it does explain why that hyena was following the cheetah around. It wasn't so much necessarily concerned with a free meal. That just would have been a nice bonus. It also had to do with making sure they didn't wander too close to a den. And I have long suspected there's a den site somewhere here. I have found the hyenas around the spot multiple times, heard them calling. They've been around. I'm sure I've never found it. I've tried. I have tried. I've never found it. My only conclusion is that it's somewhere in one of these croton thickets. Hey, you two. Still cuddled together. So part of the Talek spotted hyena clan. And then just one other thing while I'm looking at it, we've got a double-headed topi. Oh, he put his head down. Hey, put your head back up. He was posing so beautifully. In the direction that the hyena was looking, there was the topi were lined up perfectly so that they looked like they had two heads. There we go, that's it. But now they've changed it all around and it doesn't work. My humour didn't work at all. Oh well. And now why are you digging? What are you after? Okay, we're just going to slam our head into the ground. Why not? I suppose most people feel that way on a weekday morning. Okay, so while our topi... Oh, hyena wants to go and investigate what it's doing. So while our topi does that, I'm going to continue on the search for Malika. Our Taylor's found a hippopotamus. Let's go and join her.
we have just got a hippo, and I think it might just pop back into the water, or is it going to go past it? Nope. Seems to be bypassing the water. We're basically back down towards where we had the lions that were climbing trees, and we know that there are 2 hippos that like to live in these little watering holes. I saw this one yesterday, in fact. I think it was sort of chased out of its watering hole and into the forest by the lions at some point. Is that a lion sitting on the back? No, it's just a termite mound. See, I got excited there. And I don't know where he's going, though. I feel like you're going the wrong way. Are you doing your daily activities in reverse? Are you grazing during the day and sleeping at night? Which is, of course, a complete opposite. Maybe he's just a little bit nervous of us. But he was out the water when we saw him. Just, I don't actually know what he was doing. I could just see his back. Kind of like what we're seeing right now. But maybe he does enjoy spending a bit of time in the forest to be a lot cooler, a lot quieter, I'm sure. And there is lots of nice grass to nibble on. Short but sweet sighting. We like those. Now, how on earth am I going to get back out of here? See, I went adventure driving. Right. So, before I get myself into any trouble, I'm now in the middle of the quarry. I've got to, try and navigate some of these bumps and rocks and all sorts of things. I'm going to send you back down across to South Africa, and you'll be quite surprised to see that Tristina is back on safari.
Indeed I am, Taylor McCurdy. I am back on safari, and so are you. So it's a day of the 2 T's coming back, and hopefully there will be much humour and entertainment, as there generally is when Taylor and I are together. Now you can see there's a little few nyala that are just walking past. It's really nice to have them out and to be out on foot, which is really good. It's better than being in a vehicle sometimes, particularly because I just spent my whole leave on a vehicle, so it's nice to be out on foot again. As Taylor mentioned, my name is Tristan. On camera today I have got Senzo, and as I'm sure many of the others have mentioned, remember hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat if you want to get hold of us and ask any questions. Now, we are on walk, which means that we are going to be trying to find all kinds of different things. I'm excited to be out and walking, and the reason why I'm excited to be out and walking is because we had a bit of a storm last night. So it was a bit of rain, not too much in the way of a lot of water that fell. There was a lot of violence in terms of the lightning that came down, and so that's where our first port of call is going to be. We're going to try and head towards that tree that Noel had and that dead duiker, and go and see if we can see a little bit more up close what happened there, how the lightning affected that animal and the tree itself, and what actually has sort of happened during the night, whether hyenas have moved in, maybe a leopard has come in to try and have a look. So we're going to try and go that way and see if we can find anything. Now, we've got to carve our way through this thicket and try and find it a little bit further. Now, Herbie is just telling me that we need to stop, so Herbie is over here as well. He says he can see something, so we're going to follow Herbie through here because he can see something. So let's have a look quickly. What did you find, Herbie? So Herbie has spotted some elephants, which was my other plan for the morning. Is, as you can see straight through there in the thick bush, there is a herd of elephants that is down at Gallego Pan having a little drink. Now this is super exciting because whenever you have elephants, it is one of my favorite things to do on foot, is to try and approach them and to try and see if we can get a better view. Now the problem is that they're in a very dense area at the moment, but they look like they might be heading down towards the pan itself. So I'm going to try and see if we can maybe get a little bit of a better view. So let's go this way, Sens. Let's see if we can maybe get up onto this termite mound over here. Now, when trying to approach things like elephants, it's always good to try and get yourself onto some sort of high ground, because one, you can see better, and two, it's much safer for us to be up there. Now, while I try and get to a point of safety and to a termite mound that's not too far away, let's go across to my friend Scotty, who's found, well, my favorite animal that we get out here.
Yes, we certainly have found a wonderful animal, and it is in fact Thandi and her little cub. I clearly wasn't listening to the directions very well yesterday evening because I was way off, but thankfully we've managed to work out where she is. There's Mom over there. She seems like she's in a bit of a snarly mood this morning, which is strange, but just like us humans, the wild animals also are allowed to have their own personalities and mood swings. There's the cute little cubby. Now what's interesting is that as we drove past this area that we're in now, Dave got a glimpse of something that he thought was a leopard running away. So who knows, maybe it was a hyena, a serval, or possibly a leopard like he thought, but we'll definitely be keeping a close eye out for any other predators in this area, and the reason why there could be other predators into the area is because of that little thing dangling out of the tree over there. There is a duiker, and what's really interesting is that the duiker was not the only kill that was left up in this tree yesterday evening. This female leopard had a very successful run, and apparently she also had a waterbuck up the tree. I can't see the waterbuck, so maybe they finished that, and maybe that was the first animal that she caught, and therefore the first animal that they finished eating. Now, I'm not sure yesterday if Steve, who was here in this sighting with a lot of you guys, managed to actually see the cub up the tree. It would be absolutely wonderful to see this cub climbing up the tree and snacking on the duiker. Well, you didn't see the cub up the tree yesterday, but you could well see that today. We're not going to be going anywhere, and we've seen the cub climbing some kind of smaller scraggly bushes, but never a big tree like this marula tree that the duiker is hoisted up into. I've actually never seen the cub chew on anything. Ooh, it looks like we're in luck. Mom's got up, and she could well ascend the tree and start snacking, and who knows, maybe the cub will follow. It could just be that she wants to reposition ever so slightly, yeah, and plonk herself down right behind a bush where we can't see her. All good though. What? Oh no, and the cub came bounding up to her there. That would have been wonderful to see. But it's all behind bushes, so let's reposition, and while we reposition, I'm going to ask you kindly to send through some questions, because I'm told not many are coming through, and therefore it makes it difficult to chat with you. If you do not communicate with us, we cannot communicate with you. Oh, well, thank you very much to little one Naya. You are on the ball with asking some questions this morning, and you would like to know if two leopardess with similar aged cubs came across one another, would they play? Or would the cubs play? It's highly unlikely that the cubs would play while the mothers would be having an almighty snarling, hissing and spitting competition, because leopards are solitary and females do not like other females being around their area and territory, nor do males. So that's certainly not the case. Wonderful. Well, we're going to stay put, try and get you some better views. It is a little bit tricky, and we do want to be cautious and sensitive of Thandi in her slightly sour mood this morning. So we'll send you across to Tristan.
Well, we managed to get ourselves onto a termite mound, and the elephants are all around us now. So they came quite close, and then there was a gust of wind, and the wind, unfortunately, unsettled them a little bit, and they've now stopped just off on my left-hand side, so they're now starting to move away. There's another little gust of wind that's just happened, and it's obviously alerted them that there's something not quite right, and you can see now they're starting to move quite quickly. So it's not ideal that we were kind of had that wind that blew, because it was very still when we first got up onto this mound. Everything was perfect, the wind was in our favor, and it's just kind of shifted and gusted a little bit, and now the elephants are starting to depart. They actually came incredibly close at first, and then they decided, well, there's something not quite right on this termite mound, and so they've now done a retreat and gone around to the left-hand side. So what we're going to probably do is let them carry on, and the reason why is because they're very alert now. They know that there's something around, they know that there's some sort of disturbance, and so to pressurize elephants when they know there's something going on is never the best idea. So we'll have to unfortunately let them carry on with their day, and we'll try and go see if we can find that daycare. I just want to wait for them to move away from us a little bit and to start heading out of it before we come down and off the mound. But it looks like they've gone quite far already. They're sort of moving away from us, so we're going to try and just see if we can get down this termite mound and see if maybe we can get one last view of them before we try and find that carcass. Now while we do that, let's go back across to Scotty D with a, well, temperamental Thandi and her little one.
Well, Mom may be in a temperamental mood, but this cub is extremely playful this morning. Watch it go. It's bounding about, climbing up trees, letting itself fall down, swinging about. Not too sure exactly what it's chasing. Oh, well, now it was Mom's tail. Or was that her head there? But
now, unfortunately, Scotty seems to be having some issues with his comms and with his picture, and so we have a situation where you're with us again, and now we are just kind of negotiating coming down the mound. Poor Senzo's got himself stuck in all kinds of branches. We have buffalo thorns and knob thorns and all kinds of things growing off of this termite mound, and so it's not an easy place for poor Senzo to try and get out of. He's trying to kind of squat his way down a termite mound, which is never very easy at all. Well done, Senzo. That was very well done. You can see behind us is very thick and not very pleasant at all to negotiate. So that's what poor Senzo had to get his aerial and his bushwalk pack through, which he did with much expertise and ballerina-like movements. What do you think, Senz? Were you a ballerina in your past life? Apparently, yes. Right, let's see now where this duiker was. Now, I believe it was underneath a marula tree. That's what I've heard from Aubrey. So I'm just trying to look around and just see where this marula tree could be. Now, we're standing exactly where all these elephants were, so I'll give you an idea of how close they were. They came into this particular section where we are now. Their tracks are all around there, and there's the little termite mound where we were sitting. So we were no more than, I don't know, 15 meters from where they were. And then they just picked up a bit of a scent and then started to move away. So there's a perfect elephant sighting for on foot. It's the best way to view them, is just to get into somewhere nice and safe, let them move around. And then obviously if the wind blows, they'll probably then move away. They don't think they knew 100% sure that we were there. I think it's more that they just sort of smelt something and they weren't quite sure, and then they led their babies away from us. Right, Zenz, let's carry on. I'm pretty sure that tree must be somewhere here, because Gallagher is not too far away at all. The road should be somewhere in front of me. And that means that we should be able to find this tree fairly quickly in this particular area. I'm just trying to see what the best way is going to be to go through, because there's lots of little game paths that cut through this area. And I don't really want to be walking in areas that are too thick for Senzo, because obviously it makes his life a lot more difficult. But we're going to negotiate this thicket. We're going to try to get Senzo through it. And while we do that, let's go back across to Scott, who seems to have fought off the gremlins.
yes, not too sure what happened there, but very happy that whatever the problem was has rectified itself for the time being. I hope Tristan does manage to find that duiker and the tree. Sounded like an incredible scene, and well done to Noel for piecing together that very, very strange scenario. It's something that I'm sure is not very often documented. Oh, what's that cub got in its mouth there? Is it a branch or a bone? I'm not too sure. It looks like a branch for now. Oh no, it looks like the hoof, possibly of an animal. Hello, Irene. You'd like to know, when will a cub become an adept tree climber? Well, from even now they'll be kind of capable of climbing up trees well enough to be able to escape any enemies like hyena and lion. But, you know, I guess one person's opinion on what adept is with regards to tree climbing will be slightly different to another. In my opinion, it's like, oh, she went, Superman jumped after Mom there. But in my opinion, as long as she can climb up a tree and escape, that's kind of good enough for the time being. Now, where is Mom taking her? Has she buried a portion of a kill somewhere else, or is she just wanting to move around to get more comfortable somewhere else? Is this little cub's playful mood agitating Mom a little bit? Hard to say. Now, I must come clean. I made an error in saying that it was a duiker that was up the tree. It was in fact a waterbuck. So the waterbuck remains, and the duiker that was also somewhere in this tree yesterday is no longer visible. And I'm not even sure if this waterbuck has been fed on yet. It could almost be an entire carcass, but leopards will usually start feeding on the rear end of a carcass first, and that is the one part of the carcass that we cannot see. And I'm told she was kind of slightly nibbling on it yesterday, so possibly, like I said, she would have started at the rear. You would have also noticed the few little patches of that waterbuck's fur were missing. So she's been trying to remove that. Okay, let's try and reposition, because we no longer have a view of the leopards. I wonder if any hyena have been onto the scene here and possibly moved off. Often hyena will stick around once they've established that there is an easy meal that's worth waiting for, even if it is just the kind of titbits that fall off the tree. Alright, so where are we going to sneak through to? I think we should get a good spot through here. Won't take us too long to get through. Thanks, Darby. We've got quite a tall antenna that sticks up off the back of the vehicle, and he just had to lower that for us to get through that overhanging branch there. We're going to get some wonderful, wonderful views now. Hello, Lauren. You'd like to know, when will cubs eat their first bits of meat? And it all depends on the individual. I think this cub was exposed to meat slightly younger than normal because her mother acted quite strangely in that she took kills back to the den sites probably from as early as a month ago. So ordinarily what leopards will do is they'll move their cub, like now, to kills that they have made, not the other way around. And the reason for that is when cubs are still staying at their den sites, they usually don't have the required skills to be able to escape and climb up trees and get away from any threats, whereas now it is big enough to do that. So it could have kind of eaten its first meat as young as 2 months, but ordinarily, as far as the textbooks go, which I must say are often wrong, because animals are all slightly different. It's supposed to be in and around 3 months of age. That I still haven't seen it chewing on anything. I think Steve is possibly the only person who has been lucky enough to see it nibbling on something, and it was nibbling on some bacon about a week ago. Isn't it incredible how well these guys camouflage? Until Dave's... We were going to send you up to Kenya, but I think it would be worth hanging around for a little bit longer, because I'm guessing she could well go up. I'm actually thinking of, we've got a bit of time actually. She stopped thankfully, so I want to try and get into a prime position. We weren't in the best spot there. Quickly, quickly, quickly. It's tricky being in a rush but having to drive slowly. I'm gonna go for gold, do a big loop around. Just not picking the best routes. I want to try and get us into a good spot where if in fact she does go up the tree, we'll be able to finish with her at the kill. But it looks like she may be digging out another bit of carcass. I'm guessing the duiker that she may have hidden under that small fallen down tree over there. Yeah, it looks like she's trying to dig out a carcass that she would have buried over there. So let's watch closely. Let's see how much comes out or exactly what's going on. Now what you'll find is that very often cubs can be an absolute menace to their mothers in and around kills, because the mother may bury the carcass and the cub could then dig it out and start playing with it again. Look at this cub. It's an absolute bundle of joy and energy this morning. And it seems like Mom's kind of semi-reciprocating in the fun. She's not too sure whether she thinks it's a good idea or a bad idea, it seems. And I think that's why she kind of keeps getting up and moving. Okay, well, from one scene of a crime where there have been not only a waterbuck as well as a duiker killed by this leopard, we are going to send you to another crime scene with Tristan.
Well, we were at a crime scene earlier, but now we are not, because our crime scene was interrupted by a naughty herd of elephants that is coming straight barreling towards us. And I actually got such a fright. He's laughing at me as well, because we were busy looking at this crime scene and we were busy establishing what was going on. And then Senzo just shouts at me, "Elephants, elephants," and starts moving and running away from me. So Herbie and I thought maybe they were charging, so both of us try check what's going on, but it's just an elephant herd coming down from the distance. So there was panic stations for about 1 second, but we were all okay. So they're just behind us now. They should be coming down to Gallagher Pan. So what I want to do is maybe just try and position ourselves. There's a termite mound over there. So I want to go sit on that termite mound, and then hopefully they're going to come and drink, and then we'll go to our crime scene a little bit later. But before we get there, I want to ask if any of you, we're going to do a little quiz, can tell me what this is. So there we go, Senzo, get nice and tight in there. It is just a piece that we managed to find. Now, sorry, Kirst, I don't think I'm getting your comms very well at all, but this is a little piece that we managed to find around and out and about. It wasn't at the crime scene, but it was very close to it. So I'm wondering if anybody can tell me what that is. Now, I'm trying to get Kirst's comms, but I can't hear them. Sens, can you hear Kirst? So, Kirst, unfortunately, there we go, we're winning again. So, Kirst, you can go with what you were trying to say to me, because now I can actually hear you. So, the crime scene that everybody was wondering about is that we're trying to find that duiker that was struck by lightning. So that's pretty much where we were, and we managed to find the tree, but we didn't really get to investigate too much. Now, Jeffrey, you're wondering why elephants are so skittish on foot. Well, there's a number of reasons for it. Firstly is that people are their number one predator. So out here in the bush environment, elephants generally don't have to worry about too much. I mean, maybe lions when they're very young, or hyenas if it's a baby, but when they're adults, very little really kind of hunts them. Us as people, unfortunately, though, are a different story. We end up causing lots of problems for elephants, and we've hunted and poached and done all kinds of things to them. And so inherently they see us when they're walking, and they see this two sort of legged figure as a very, very large threat. And so they get into a situation where they try to be sort of defensive of that, and they're then trying to shy away from people or try and defend themselves. So it's why elephants tend to be a lot more skittish on foot than they are when you encounter them in a vehicle. Right. Now this mound should be perfect. It's nice and tall. I've sat on this mound with elephants before. It's actually one of my favorite places to come and sit if the ellies are around, because, well, you've got such a nice sort of clear vantage point. Now Herbie says he can see them coming, so we're going to get ourselves nice and comfy, and we're going to just enjoy this, because I think it's going to be very, very cool as they sort of approach down towards the water. They're actually crossing a little bit further away, so I think they're going to head down towards... Looks like they're going to go down maybe towards sort of Camp Vuetela Dam. So those of you watching Dam Cam, I reckon ellies are on their way. Now, Patrick, you want to know whether or not this is a piece of duiker horn. So no, it's not a piece of duiker horn, far too big for that. But you're on the right track, that's for sure. So what you are busy describing is pretty much close to what it is. It should be of the same sort of description, but not the right animal, unfortunately, which is quite interesting. But our ellies are moving away a little bit now, so plan did not go as well as I expected. I was hoping that the ellies were going to come down to the water and kind of come and drink here, but I think they're rather going to go to Djuma Dam, or Gari Dam should we call it. Right, well, while I try and get back to our crime scene and try and see what's been happening there, let's go across to Taylor McCurdy, who's all the way in the Masai Mara, and I hope that Taylor is feeling a lot better than what she was yesterday.
Look at who we've got joining us. Yay, and I bet there's squeals of excitement. It's our friends, the jackal pups, and I'm happy to report that all four are still here, but only one has popped over to say hello. Hello, little jackal. Others are sleeping in the grass. These guys are so cool. There's no other way to describe how amazing they are. Look at them. Hello. coming right up to the car, and this jackal's less than 3 feet away from us. I think it's very inquisitive with all the smells and the sounds that are around the cars. Kirsten, the Ice Queen, who's directing today, has just said that they've missed me while I was on leave. Yes, I like to believe this. Yeah, hello. Look how cool that is. Honestly, it's the most amazing thing I've ever experienced. This is my most memorable moment. Yesterday I was asked a question about what is my most memorable moment in the Mara, or actually no, for working for Safari Live. And I think meeting these jackal pups was probably the coolest thing that has ever happened to me. You know, you're just sitting, listening, paying attention. The last time that I was here, I scolded them because I was trying to read them the poem, and they were all running around like absolute lunatics and wouldn't listen to me, like naughty children that had eaten a whole bowl of sugar. But they're growing up. They're so big. They're starting to look like adults now. Not quite tall enough just yet, or even long enough, or way enough. But they'll get there. And have you been digging? Have you been eating termites? I thought I saw one digging in the grass, so maybe they were digging for something like termites, or perhaps there were some alates that were coming out of the chimney of a mound, because I don't think the grasshoppers would be up and moving around just yet. Hi, Cheryl. Cheryl, you said that they like my voice. At least someone does. Hey, isn't that great? What else would you like to say? Now, here we go. Imagine having a conversation with these jackal pups. I reckon that would be a great conversation to have. And I'm so glad there's a vehicle behind us that's being very, very polite. And I think they can see that the jackal is right next to the car, so they're not coming to push it out of the way. What do you want in here? What is so curious? I don't know if it's the smell of food. Not that we have got any interesting snacks in the car this morning. Here we go, just walking right past. And you can see every now and then when we shuffle, they get a little bit of a fright, but it's nothing too bad. Now, the others are in fact just over there, but you won't be able to see them as well because they're sleeping. Now, Jim video, you're wondering, do jackals howl or bark? They do this weird thing. It's almost like a combination of both. So I've heard blackback jackal howling into the night, but it's more like a scream. And then they do a rup, when they're alarming, and we've heard that a number of times with lions or when there's hyenas around or anything like that. We have heard them making some sounds. Otherwise they're fairly quiet. They're not too bad. I don't know, the other one I think is still right in front of the car, but the other three are there. They're not quite ready to wake up just yet. Can you see it again, Craig? Oh, you might just be able to see between the windscreen. It's now standing in not a very nice spot, unfortunately. Right, we'll hang around with the jackal for a little bit longer because I'm quite keen to see if the others join. However, Jamie has managed to find a pair of lions to add to her spots for the day.
I have found a pair of lions, and a mating pair of lions at that. And I'm talking quite softly because they're basically on top of us. They're very, very close to the front of the vehicle. I'm pretty sure it's these two that were responsible for chasing those cheetah yesterday. We're in exactly the right spot, and it would make absolute sense. As to who they are, no idea. I can tell you the male has got a ridiculous tip to his tail, and he's very dark in colour, although that might be because he's damp, but he does seem unbelievably dark compared to the lioness, does he not? Even if he has been lying in the dew, I don't think he's dirty, I think he's just dark. Interesting. I can tell you I'm about 1 kilometre west from the balloon crossing point, but other than that I have no idea which lions these are. Never seen them before in my life. They make such a nice contrast though. The dark of the male and the sort of beautiful tan of the female. So they've just mated. Oh, everybody's moving very stiffly this morning. The female... Oh. Listen. Growly this morning, guys. Not terribly happy in each other's company. That's probably mating that has only just started. There are lots of aggression still within it. And the female, they mated and the female was very, she didn't quite turn around and swat him, but she came very close to it. And she continued to growl for a long time afterwards. Most of our regular viewers are pretty used to the whole big cat mating process. For our new viewers, it is a prolonged, protracted thing. Not the actual mating itself, but the entire time that the couple are together. They're probably together for about 5 days. The male's penis is barbed, so it is exceptionally uncomfortable for the female, and they usually mate around about every quarter of an hour. Give or take. Obviously more when it's cooler, and less frequently when it's hot and they're not really feeling the whole process. And during that time, the female often desperately tries to reunite with the rest of her pride, and the male just blocks her at every turn. We've seen it with the Nkuhumas, particularly with Amber Eyes, and I do believe it was on our lovely Kirsten McLennan Smith's birthday. She was with us on the vehicle, and Amber Eyes was trying to use the vehicle to get away from him. She kept going around one side and then the other side, and the male kept popping out on the front of the vehicle, and then she'd get all irritated and frustrated, and it was quite hilarious. Kirsten, who is directing this morning, confirms that it was indeed. It was a really nice... Didn't we break down after that, though? It was a really lovely sighting, and we had Amber Eyes trying to mount one of the other females. Then the male came and interrupted, and the rest of the pride moved away. And then we broke down. Kirsten says, no, we didn't. Don't play this with me, Kirsty. Are you sure we didn't break down? Oh, no. The Mandela effect. Now I'm confused. Don't look at me like that, mister. This is a line with no problems with eye contact. Mita, your comment was actually so spot on that the lioness lifted up her head as you said it. So Mita, who is age 9, says that the male lion looks like he's in the shade and the lioness looks like she's in the sun. I couldn't have put it's a perfect description. Mita, would you like a job? You can come and present for us, because that was a far better description than the one I came up with. The male's dark and the female's light. I like Mita's description. Mita is obviously far more creative than myself. Very good. That's exactly what it looks like, even as the sun tries to peek through the clouds and lights up our female. Adrian, just so that you know, I think keep the odd, no shouting and waving about, not that you're going to, but they keep giving us odd looks. Perhaps it's because they know I'm going looking for Malika, and they're hoping that, or they were hoping to catch her yesterday. Kirst, I'm so sorry. I missed completely who I'm meant to be sending you across to. I'm sending you across to somebody somewhere with something, and I'm sure it's wonderful.
It is always wonderful, Jamie, when we've got the jackal pups. I'm sure you agree. But our friend who was very curious around the car has now decided to go back to its own kind. It's done being a human for the day, and it's just resting up. Ooh, they look so cold this morning. They're so fluffy, and it was quite chilly. Last night, can you believe it? We were threatened by all those big, dark and gloomy clouds. We didn't get a drop of rain, but what it did bring was an icy chill for the night. So I'm sure the four of these jackal pups were cuddled up quite nicely, and now they're just, I suppose, waiting for the sun to warm them up, and they're sitting in a good spot. You can see another one's popped its head up because the sunlight is directly on them. K6, I think the question was, can I tell the genders of the jackal? We tried one day. We had a quick look. It was quite difficult. We definitely saw 2 males and a female, and I don't think we were able to sex the last one. They were all running around here at one point, but I think they're just laying in the tall grass now. So it's difficult to tell, just because they're always playing in the long grass, and then every now and then they pop out like they did on the side of the car. But I'm pretty sure it was 2 males, 1 female, and then we'll have to wait until we get them all out again. But they're growing up so quickly. And the other day I was trying to figure out when we first started seeing them, because we've seen these guys way before they started hanging around the cars in their den that was along this road. But now, because I've been trying to figure out their exact ages, and it's quite difficult, but I'm sure they must be close to about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months old now, at least. because they're out there playing around, maybe even a little bit older than that. Perhaps the adults had this litter a little bit earlier. Maybe they could be even a bit older, maybe closer to 6 months or so. But they should hang around for a little bit longer. But we see it every time I come through here. You don't see them for a few days, and then you might find 1 or 2 together, and you can't see the others. And we don't see the adults hanging around as much either. They don't need to be here 24/7 anymore. These little ones are quite capable of going off on their own right now. So if something had to happen to the adults, it actually wouldn't be a problem. These youngsters would be fine. They could live off grasshoppers eventually. They'd get braver. They would start going after birds like guinea fowl, lots of guinea fowl chicks or Franklin chicks, anything like that. And then of course scavenging on carcasses. But they'll just need to learn though that at a carcass there could be other dangerous predators around, and they need to be careful. But those are the life lessons. We're going to say goodbye to our jackal now. Maybe we'll pop past a bit later. We'll try to find some lions. However, Tristan has managed to find a gap between the elephants. He's back at the lightning tree.
I have indeed. So we've now managed to get to our crime scene, and you might be wondering why I'm standing so far away. Now, the reason I'm standing so far away from Senzo is because Senzo is where the tree is that was struck by lightning, and I'm at the first we can find debris from this tree. Now, we sort of roughly measured it out, and it works out to about 30 yards or 27 meters from the tree is where the last piece of sort of debris is that we can find. And it's little pieces of wood and splinters that have basically been thrown from this tree as the lightning has hit it and is pushed on this, well, the force has hit the tree. So we've seen little bits blow off everywhere, and it's actually incredible to see what it looks like around here. It looks as though almost something like a hurricane has come through, or wood chipper, in fact, because there is just little bits of tree absolutely everywhere. Now you can see this is what one of the pieces is. There's a lot of other bigger pieces than this. Now this might have been carried by a bit of wind as well, but this is the little kind of bits of debris that are all over. It's just strewn throughout the bush. In fact, if we sit and we look around me where I'm standing, there's just little bits of red everywhere, which is all from this tree and from where the lightning hit. It is absolutely astounding to see the power. Now, of course, we know that there was a little duiker here that unfortunately got hit by this lightning, so it is still here. We managed to find it earlier. Now if I don't hook myself onto a tree, which will be good news, so it's still in the same place that it was. Now for those of you that are a bit sensitive, I would suggest possibly looking away, because it's not the most prettiest of scenes that we have with this little duiker. But basically you can see where this duiker was hit by lightning. It is absolutely astonishing. There you can see the burnt fur, so the fur is absolutely singed away. Herbie and I did actually sniff this, and it does smell like burnt hair. It's exactly what it sort of smells like. It's got this kind of charred smell to it. And you can actually see the lightning kind of came along and all across the body. Now, it unfortunately would have died instantly from this. It's a massive strike that has hit here, and this poor little animal unfortunately must have not known what hit it. You can see that there's also kind of bits that have kind of come out of its nose and its mouth, which would be from the force of this lightning hitting it. What interests me though is that there are tracks for hyenas all over the place here, yet they haven't fed on this. So I wonder why they haven't fed on it. Maybe because of the lightning, it tastes different, or there's some sort of issue with it, but it certainly has not even been touched at all. But this can honestly say is the first time that I've seen such damage on an animal from lightning. I have seen animals die from lightning before. I've seen 6 different wildebeests that were struck by lightning that the lions were feeding on, but because the lions were there, couldn't really get close to it and couldn't really see what was going on. This, for me, is an absolute first, and I was chatting to Herbie about it, and he says also the first time for him to actually see this kind of damage on an animal and actually still find it the next day. So it's really quite a fascinating thing. I can't believe the amount of burning that's taken place on it. You would have thought that, with the thicker fur, we wouldn't have seen as much damage, but you can definitely see how it kind of came in and it went rippled across its body and then out down the bottom to earth into the ground, which is absolutely insane. It's really it's sad, but it is fascinating at the same time. Now, this poor little duiker who's been here for quite some time, because if we look underneath the bush here, so Herbie and I went inside and had a little look, but inside this little thicket is where this little duiker was sleeping. So there's actually fur and all kinds of other things that can show where it's been lying for multiple days. It has a situation where There obviously uses this for a shady and secluded section where it can hide, and unfortunately it was just under the wrong tree at the wrong time yesterday when it got struck, should I say. It's also a very young animal, so hopefully there's not a parent out here looking for it. This is not a fully grown duiker by any stretch of the imagination. It's a little baby, and so this is obviously the place that it was resting quite a bit. Right, now I'm going to probably move on and carry on. I've just actually seen a massive piece, so you can see the size of pieces that were being blown off by this lightning. It's absolutely insane. So while we kind of carry on and go and see what other interesting things we can find and see what else there is out there, let's go back across to Scotty D with a very playful little cub.
Well, that sounded absolutely fascinating with the duiker and Tristan. We've been having a great time here. The cub has just got very, very playful, and because this cub is so playful, we're going to welcome on some other safari goers. I'm just going to keep quiet for a second before we do so. Hello everyone. As you can see, we've got a tiny little leopard cub and her mother. They're very, very playful. My name's Scott, and we are coming to you live from South Africa in the Sabi sands. Let's take a close look again. We are getting absolutely spoilt this morning as this young cub is showing us some of its most playful behavior that I've certainly ever seen. It's about 3 months of age now. The mother's about 11 years old, so she's not a youngster, and we're at quite an interesting scene. They're not just playing around in a random area. They do actually have a kill hoisted up in a marula tree that's just up to our left here, and you can just see the head of an unlucky young waterbuck that fell victim to this leopardess whose name is Thandi. And interestingly, it's not the only kill that she made and hoisted into this tree. She had a bit of a lucky go, and she caught 2 kills. She also had a duiker, which is a very small antelope. So, full bellies, lots of food in the pantry, and isn't this just absolutely beautiful? Now, we've been lucky enough to be following this cub for about the last 2 months, and it's been fascinating to watch it grow and develop. When we first saw it, it was a tiny, clumsy little fluff ball. Now, still a little bit clumsy, but certainly learning the ways of the wild. And as you can see, it's racing about this morning. King, you've mentioned that that Thandi is a good mother, and yes, she certainly has been doing a great job thus far in raising this young cub. It must be said that young leopards, as well as lions and cheetah, all the big cats really of Africa, have got the odds stacked against them. There's a very high mortality rate of young cats, and who knows what happened to this individual's siblings. We never saw any of them, but it's unlikely that she only gave birth to 1 cub. Usually they'll give birth to about 2 or 3, but we've only ever seen 1, and we think she is a little girl, fairly confident at this stage that she is. And she seems to be like a little bit of a rebel. She's quite bold, and we are getting to see firsthand this morning just how playful she is. Angela, you're wondering if this youngster has a name yet. Excuse me. Sorry, no, she doesn't at the moment, and ordinarily in most kind of areas where you view big cats, youngsters will only be named once they kind of reach adulthood. So in the case of leopards, it will be anywhere from a year to around 18 months of age that their mothers boot them out the house and they start living independently. However, with what we do, it's a little bit different because so many of you follow the safaris daily. It would be quite a thing to have to just call it she or it or the cub all the time. So I think the naming of this youngster, the temporary naming at least for us, for Safari Live's sake, will be done fairly soon. We're just going to get some names from some suggestions from the guides of this property here on Djuma Private Game Reserve, and as soon as they've put together 2 or 3 names, we will put that out to you guys, the viewers, to decide which one you like the most. And I think, considering how playful this little girl is, I think it would be useful to have something to do with that as one of the name options. But we will be updating you guys shortly as to what exactly the plan is for naming her. What I'm hoping for, and something that I've yet to see, is this little cub chewing on a carcass. At about, this age, around 3 months of age, she will, and other leopard cubs would also start eating meat. So they will be aiding not drinking too much mother's milk and starting to alleviate that with a bit of meat. There has been one sighting of her chewing on a warthog about a week ago, but we also haven't seen her climb high up into any trees yet. She's climbed up a few small kind of scraggly trees, and we'll be sure to keep you guys updated if anything exciting does happen here, if the mom and this cub do head up the tree. But for those of you who just joined us temporarily, it's time to say goodbye. If you would like to continue watching this safari, just Google Safari Live and you'll be able to find us with relative ease. Goodbye. Alrighty, well, we're going to stay put and send you guys back up to the Masai Mara with Jamie, who has found one of my favorite antelopes and one that we do not see down here in the Sabi sands. I'm hoping you enjoy.
Back in the Masai Mara with some massive antelope. That actually works quite well. A trio of eland bulls who are really truly impressive. The most impressive gentleman is actually the one in the middle, who has attained that dark color of a fully mature eland bull, complete with a massive swinging dewlap. Gosh, yes. The dewlap, of course, is the flap on the bottom of the neck, just to clarify for our new viewers. Now, of course, he's turned away. There we go. That's what I'm talking about, the flap of skin, which apparently is associated with thermoregulation in these large bulls. In other words, allowing them to cool themselves down. Most animals are geared in some way or another out here to be able to cope with high temperatures. Now, the Masai Mara is not as nearly as hot as Djuma is on average, especially in summer. We're also not nearly as cold as Djuma gets in winter. It stays pretty temperate here. But isn't he magnificent? What I want to do is just hold on 1 second. I'm going to reposition to see if we can hear the clicking again. Eland are a unique animal. There's something truly strange about them. And that is that as they walk, they click. And it is actually the sound of a tendon on their joints clicking. And apparently, it's actually got a connection to being able to show dominance. These gentlemen will let me get close enough. They're not going to. I'm driving. Unfortunately, I have to drive right at them, and that's not going to help. It's not going to work. But let's go a little bit closer to them, and let's see if we can hear it again. No, I can't. I can't. Kirsty has suggested going to get them to come closer. No, unfortunately, they're not. I can't even hear it now with my own ears. I could earlier. So it's actually a way of basically showing fighting dominance. So, which must mean that with my clicky joints, I must be exceptionally fightingly fit. And it's a bizarre thing when you see watch an entire herd of eland run, and you can just hear not hooves hitting the ground. It's a completely different sound. Beautiful creatures. There's one that lives near Talek Gate, a young female, I think it's a young female, who comes and sticks her head into the vehicles every now and again. And she has to be shooed away because she keeps blocking up the gate. I don't know what her story is, what her backstory is, but she does enjoy company. Okay, we're going to go search for Malika and send you back all the way across to Djuma to spend some time with Thandi and her kill.
Well, good luck, Jamil, on your quest for the cheetah. Now, interestingly, Thandi has managed to pull out about half of a duiker that she had buried in a grassy thicket, and she's just moved it to another thicket. It's quite strange behavior, and quite often what animals do doesn't really make sense to us as humans. I'm not too sure exactly what her plans are, whether she's going to want to feed on the carcass or if she's just wanting to stash it somewhere else. Looks like she's just wanting to stash it somewhere else. Had she wanted to feed on it, she would have just pulled it out and started feeding on it ordinarily, not head off into another thick area. Maybe she's just a little bit OCD with regards to... And I'm guessing it's at some point in time this youngster is going to get tired and have a snooze, but loving the fact that for now it is still in a very, very playful mood. We've got wonderful prospects here. I mean, I'm guessing for at least the next 24 hours they are going to be in this area. That was awesome. And aren't we so lucky to be able to spend so much time, or at least have spent so much time, with these two leopards over the last couple of months. I think our luck has been phenomenal. And at least for the next 24 hours, our luck will continue. Hello, Safari Heart. You would like to know if it's normal for other big cats, not only leopards, to kind of bury their kills in the undergrowth. Not so much. I mean, occasionally lions will attempt to kind of semi-cover up a kill, but usually they just drag it under a bush, and the reason they do that is to prevent vultures seeing the kill from the skies and then attracting too much unwanted attention to the kill site. Cheetah ordinarily feed very quickly and then abandon their kill once they are full, even if it's not entirely finished. It's not always the case, but leopards are kind of unique out of the big cats of Africa in that they can spend often many, many days at kills, more so than lions, and also have more of a need to hide the kills. In my opinion, though, it doesn't make a huge deal of sense. You know, if a hyena came onto the scene here, within a couple of minutes, if that, it's going to sniff out where that kill is. So kind of hiding it under a little tuft of grass is not really going to make a huge difference at the end of the day, in my opinion. However, hoisting it up a tree like she has done with one of her two kills in this scene is far, far more productive with regards to decreasing the chances of it being stolen. So, in my opinion, if she was clever, that other half of the duiker would also be up the tree with the waterbuck. It wouldn't be on the ground where hyena can get access to it. But again, you know, that's just a good example of how sometimes, you know, what these animals do doesn't make perfect sense and often isn't the smartest kind of plan. I think far too often we give the big cats a bit too much credit for their intelligence. Guide Monkey, you'd like to know if the spot patterns of leopards are similar between a mother and the cub. No, not necessarily. Often, you know, if there are 2 or 3 cubs in a litter, they can all look quite different to their mother, and of course it depends on how much of their father's genes they have gathered along the way. We're getting a few little spots of rain, interestingly. I don't think it's anything too serious, but just to keep you updated on the weather. Loving this cool, cloudy morning after yesterday's really hot day. We were up into the 100 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday before we had a small storm that rolled in. Sadly, it didn't provide us with much rain. And hopefully the clouds that we have around today will bring a bit more of a subsistent downpour, or not a subsistent, a decent downpour for us, because it is very, very dry here at the moment. Good. We're going to stay put and send you across to Tristan, who is still patrolling on foot.
Well, we are. So we came down towards the dam because I was thinking that there might still be water and hoping that the ellies might still be around. But as we can see, it is completely barren. There is no water, which is a surprise and not a surprise in some ways, because it has been so incredibly hot and dry. Even though I was on leave, I've been very close to this area. I've been in the Kruger Park section, and I went up a little bit further north, up towards the sort of Zimbabwe, Mozambique corner there. And it is even worse up there. If we think it is bad here, it is incredibly dry up that side. It looks much like the drought did a few years ago. So for those of you that were watching 2 years ago, you will know what it looked like. There was not a blade of grass anywhere. It is completely barren. So I thought this might be quite low. I didn't expect it to be as dry as it is. You can see, though, it is still in a great place for a bit of mud wallowing. And there's lots and lots of evidence of a number of elephants coming down and having a good time here. You can see where they go into that wetter mud and have a really good sort of rely around and roll around, and they try and kind of get as much mud packed onto them as possible. And we know that it's mostly elephants, one, because of the tracks that are here, two, because they leave us very definite signs in the form of massive piles of dung. Now this dung is fairly fresh. You can see that it is quite sort of moist and wet, so probably from yesterday. But the interesting thing about it is that even though it's from yesterday, you can see how broken up it is already. Now the reason why it will be so broken up is because we've had a bit of rain, and that means a lot of insects start coming out, and so we would have had dung beetles and various other things starting to go into this dung and starting to process it. Now, as they do that, that then attracts other things like hornbills and various birds that will come and dig up here. And so that's why the dung is being quite spread already and is as sort of broken up as it is. Normally, you'll find in the winter months that this would have stayed whole and solid for a much longer period. The other nice thing that we can see is, unfortunately, we can't get too close because the mud is still very wet. But if we have a look just on the sort of left-hand side of this wet mud, you can actually see the wrinkles of an elephant's skin. So it's very cool when you come to these mud wallows and you have a little look. They leave the most incredible tracks and signs. You get this kind of wrinkling of the skin itself, and you can actually see where that animal was lying on its side before it then stood up and moved off. Now I'm trying to see, sometimes if you're very lucky in mud like this, you can actually find where they've dug their tusks into the mud, and you can get these massive long tubular sort of markings that you get. I don't see any at the moment. I'm trying to just have a look. There's a few other little tracks that are mixed up in it at the moment, but I don't see any tusk marks. Maybe there could have been one or two there. It's difficult to see, but I have had ones where you could actually, in fact, I had a really great one when I was working on the Lebombo concession, where Steve will know a lot about that. That's where Steve and I met, actually, for Singita, and they have this big sort of mud wallow there, and it was a dry period, but there was a bit of mud there, and these ellies came in, and this big bull elephant had shoved his head into the mud, and his tusks had come through. So he had tusks that were about that wide, and they left these massive holes in the bed, and his trunk coming down with the two tusks going into the mud. It was one of the most incredible tracks I've ever seen, and it was amazing to see all the detail. You could see all the little wrinkles on his forehead, and you could even see where the eyes had been, and his ears had flapped forward and touched the mud and then come back again. So it was really very cool to see. So going places like this when there's a lot of mud and it's dry, even though it looks quite desolate, there's a lot that actually goes on in these areas. So, Gemma, you're wondering, with it being so dry up in the north of Kruger, will the animals migrate south down to eat? Well, Gemma, so when I was up there, and I've been to that area a lot, and normally when you go up there, what you find is hundreds and hundreds of elephants and also thousands of buffalo. You get lots of big herds up in the northern parts of Kruger, around Shingwetsi and Punda Maria in the northern parts. And so this trip, it was very different. When I went up there, very few elephants up there. There was elephants, but not as many as there normally is, and there was very few buffalo as well. Funny enough, they're all down in the south, so south of us even, down towards the Crocodile River, which is the southern boundary of the Kruger National Park. They've had a lot of rain. It's lush, it's green, it's beautiful down there at the moment, and there were lots and lots and lots of herds of buffalo and elephants down that way. With the marulas also fruiting now, I'd expect a lot more elephants to come into this section as well. There's a big marula belt that runs from the Sabi Sands area, a little bit north, a little bit south, and then straight through the Kruger. So I would expect to see a lot of elephants arriving here, and that's probably why some of the guys that are south of us on the Sand River have been saying that they've been inundated with elephants, and it's probably because of how dry it is. So yes, animals will move. Unfortunately, the things that are territorial, so, lion, leopard, those kind of things, unfortunately won't be able to. They're going to have to just make do until everything comes back again. But it is amazing to see how different it is. Right, now while I start making my way southwards, I'm going to try and go and see what else I can find and go and have a little look around and just explore. Let's go back across to Taylor McCurdy, who seems to be cruising and exploring the Mara herself.
Right, hello again. We're bumbling. We're having no luck this morning, unfortunately, so I'm just watching the road as there's a couple of mud wallows that are creeping on to the road, and we went on a slide into one of those. I was hoping that we were going to find my two favorite lioness that live up here around this marshy section, but sadly no luck just yet. We've kind of got one more little tree line to check, and if they're not here, then I don't know what we're going to go and do, because I don't know where anyone else is. The olololos, I think they may have gone into the forest. I have a suspicion. We did have a quick check around, but we couldn't find them, which is sad. But that's just how the bush goes, isn't it? Some days it's quiet, some days it isn't. There's some impala up ahead, there's some warthogs. Let's see if there's anything stalking them. Also just check here for tracks. It's nice and sandy in some spots. See, sometimes this is a sneaky corner out. The boys are all chasing each other around. We'll have a quick look at them. Alright, now Sharon, you're wondering, where does the name Olololo Pride come from? Well, it's the name of the escarpment that Angama Mara is set upon. Mara West is also up there, and so is our camp. So that's where they get the name from. And as you've seen over the last few weeks, is that they utilize that escarpment quite a bit. They go up and down it. Now there's lots of impala rams that you can see racing around, chasing one another. I love it when those white tails are turned up. Look at them go. Careful, it's a bit slippery. You wouldn't want to slip and fall. And this is very common behavior in the bachelor groups of the various animals. They're constantly testing one another and testing one another in the strength, fitness, and within here there'll be some more dominant males, and it looks like the big boys are really having a go at one another today, and they're constantly rutting the impala up here versus down in the southern Sabi sands. Well, I was actually going to say South Africa, and then that came out. Oh well. And a few warthogs as well. So many warthogs. That's why I'm surprised the lions haven't come back into this area. Perhaps they don't know. It's interesting how they always move around, spend a bit of time, unsuccessful, then move off and eventually make their way back around. So let's carry on checking this thicket, this tree line, because I don't know how many times we've come here and we haven't seen much, and then all of a sudden, stepping out of the forest will be some lions. I keep hoping to see a leopard, and if we're going to see a leopard, this is a very nice area too. And also black rhino. We've seen a black rhino up here before, so that could be quite great. Right, but I'm not going to hold you on to you for too much longer. I'm going to send you back down to Djuma, where Scott is having all the luck with leopards.
Yes, I certainly am having a very lucky morning, as are we all. And like I said, thankfully this is not going to be a short-lived sighting. I think this spot with mother and cub is going to continue to provide us with some magical moments for at least the next 24 hours. There's plenty of meat stashed up in a marula tree nearby. They've still got half a duiker to deal with and almost an entire young waterbuck. So plenty of food. The major risk would be if lions came onto the scene, because the marula tree that this kill is in, right over here, is quite easy for lions to climb. There's the waterbuck over there. And I guess other leopard, if a male leopard came onto the scene, even the father of this little cub, who's presumed to be a dominant male called Tingana, if he came onto the scene, he would gobble up all the food quite quickly. if another unknown male came onto the scene, it's not only the food that he may gobble up, but also the cub. Of course, we would hate for that to happen, but it is a reality. But provided there's no intruders that come in and ruin this mother's plans, they are in a very, very good situation here. I wonder if they might go for a drink somewhere. If so, where would they go? It's likely that Mom will leave this kill to go and have a drink at some point in time. Leopards will often do that, especially if they are feeding on multiple kills over a prolonged period, which is the case here. I think the little cub's got less of a necessity to drink water because it gets quite a lot of liquid from its mother's milk. And it has been doing a little bit of nursing. Okay, now it's found where Mom restashed half of the Duiker kill. Let's see what it does. If it pulls it out, or if it just chews on it a little bit, it'll be quite a feat if it does manage to move the carcass, because it's probably not much smaller than the little leopard cub itself. No. Just wanted to have a little chew and play on it. One thing that I'm also very, very happy about is the state at which, the rate at which this little cub is being habituated to us in the vehicles. Oh, standing on Mom's head. And she's very, very relaxed with our presence, which is exactly how we want it to be. Because if these cubs are not habituated to the vehicles from a young age, they can turn out to be a little bit of a nightmare with regards to being quite nervous and shy of vehicles as they grow up. And a leopard that doesn't want to be seen becomes like a ghost and can become hugely frustrating for us, because, of course, we want to spend as much time viewing them as possible. Ah, slowly. You can't hiss at us. We've done nothing wrong. Just because the cub's giving you a bit of a tough morning, being very playful, doesn't mean you can snarl at us, Thandi. That is not fair. Gillian, you've mentioned that you would love to see this cub eating, and me too. I could think of nothing better than seeing this cub up a marula tree, wrestling a kill, and it's definitely going to provide its mother with lots of hard times going forwards at kill sites. Cubs are notorious for playing with their food and dropping kills down from trees, and very often there are hyena lurking below, very nearby, and as soon as they hear the thud of a kill hitting the earth, it's a race between the mother leopard and the hyena to see who can get to the carcass first. And then sometimes the hyena get lucky and get to run off with the carcass. Other times the leopardess will, just in the nick of time, get down to the kill and manage to re-hoist it up the tree. I remember seeing a sighting many years ago of a cub repeatedly dropping a kill out of a tree. It happened like 3 times in a row, and each time the mother had to hustle to get the kill away from the hyena. Oh, well, we've got some wonderful, wonderful news. Good morning, Kiri. We are told that you are new to Safari Life and that you are absolutely loving it. If you've just started watching today, you couldn't have chosen a better morning to join us. We've been spoilt with some incredible action thus far, and Thandi and this little cub are the absolute business, don't you think? Kiri, it's wonderful to have you as a part of our Safari Life family, and you'll be glad to know that we broadcast every single day, twice a day, from 2 locations, the Sabi Sands in South Africa as well as the Masai Mara up in Kenya, 2 of Africa's most iconic wilderness destinations. And that's just for now. Hopefully we'll be at some other locations sooner rather than later as we continue to grow and spread eventually across the entire universe. Now, we've seen a lot of wonderful playful action this morning. We've seen Mom up and down moving around but we haven't seen any feeding yet, and I'm feeling confident that Mom is going to get hungry at some point in time, and who knows, maybe when she climbs up the tree and starts feeding, the cub will follow her. So that's what I'm looking forward to. I've just had a quick look at the time, and we've still got plenty of time for that to happen. Good stuff. Well, as we stay put at this wonderful scene, we are going to send you across to Tristan, who is on the search for anything, great or small.
I am indeed. So I'm moving around, and we've got the tracks for this elephant herd that we saw in the distance earlier. So not the first elephant herd, the second one. We managed to spot them their tracks coming this way and then moving down this way. And we saw them from long distance. So we're just following those tracks just to see where they're kind of going, as well as just generally looking around. It's a nice morning to be out and walking. It's beautiful, beautiful weather. There's our little Wahlberg's pair. So we're very close to the Wahlberg's nest, and there's one at least that's sitting atop the tree at the moment, so it's just taking it very easy, and I expect that from a lot of the birds of prey at the moment. They are all going to be fairly low to the ground, given that we've got very grey overcast conditions, not too many thermals around, also a bit of rain that's been sort of blowing in and out, and so I would have expected a number of these birds of prey just to be sitting on the dead trees all fluffed up like that. The thing is, though, it isn't actually that cold out here. In fact, it's fairly warm. It's quite humid, so I'm surprised that it's as fluffy as it is, because generally when birds puff up like that, it's when it's cooler conditions, and when they're cold and wet, maybe it's just all frazzled from last night's storm and lightning. It's got scared so much that the feathers haven't returned just yet. What do you think, Sens? You think so? Yes, Senzo agrees with me. So it's nice to see the Wahlbergs, and obviously the time is going to start running short, and soon we're going to start to see Wahlbergs leaving the area. We are in almost February now, and so you'll find a situation where in the next couple of months, these guys are going to depart us and start heading all the way back north and heading up towards North Africa and into Europe. So long journey for them still to go. Right, now I'm going to try and carry on, see where these elephants go. They've gone into this big block here that is dense and thick. Maybe they're heading down towards Treehouse Dam. So while we go that way, let's jump back across to Jamie and her spotted friends.
Well, speaking of carrying on, we have carried on until we've bumped into Malika and her two boys. At least I'm relatively certain. Oh, and they've got a baby Thompson's gazelle, and at the moment they are playing tug of war with it. I'm pretty sure it's them. I haven't seen Malika. I think she's actually taken off after something else, but unfortunately I've been struggling with signal here, so I don't want to move and then follow her and miss out on seeing any cheetah at all. So what a start to the morning for these young boys. They caught it on their own, a little baby Thompson that was flushed out of the grass. So a young antelope, it was lying hiding, and unfortunately the cheetah boys saw it as it dashed up, and they ran forward and grabbed it. So I was asked yesterday about whether or not Malika's boys could survive on their own if something were to happen to her, and we have our answer. They would be able to hunt and essentially survive. What's interesting is that one of the cheetah monitors yesterday thinks that Malika might be coming into estrus, which would make sense at the boys' age. They're around about 20 months old now. Apparently the males are showing a lot of interest in areas that Malika's sprayed or urinated. But where's Malika? I think she must have gone over the hill, and I think she's caught something. Oh, where to go, where to turn. It's not like these two boys not to squabble over food. Oh, here we go again. They've actually got full bellies. They've eaten already today. Oh, no, you can't have it. It's mine. Now, Proud Cat Mama, you want to know what would happen if you removed a predator from an ecosystem. There's a lot of examples where predators have been removed from ecosystems, and it does enormous detriment to the ecosystem itself. Now, it makes sense. A predator keeps the number of animals in balance, in check. Oh, there we go again. No, you can't have it. It's my baby Tommy. For our more sensitive viewers, I know it's hard to watch, but just so that you know, the little Thompson's gazelle is dead. It's no longer suffering. So it is not feeling any pain at this point, obviously. And these two boys are going to continue to struggle over it. So keeping numbers in check, an antelope population could grow potentially at around about a rate of between 10 to 20% in a year. Right, that's in natural situations. Now take away the predators that catch things like the youngsters from the ecosystem, the greater the number of herbivores. Why is that a problem? Well, everything is in balance. It has a natural balance out here, so you get overgrazing, you get overutilization of resources by the herbivores, and ultimately it creates a problem. Especially in closed systems, so areas that aren't open, they're fenced off, small closed systems, it becomes a lack of balance. Funnily enough, over 100 years ago, the idea of conservation in South Africa in terms of the setup of the Kruger Park, and I'm not judging these people because this is, our knowledge expands, but at the time, it was thought that the best way to conserve the game, as it was phrased, things like antelope, was to shoot out all of the predators. Isn't that strange, how our ideas of conservation have changed over the past over 100 years? I wonder what we'll look back on in 50 years' time. Nature has things in a balance, and generally speaking, nature is far better at looking after things than we are. And a lot of the time we don't always understand the methods. I'm really sorry, but there's a bug crawling in my hair. It's where my microphone sits, underneath my cap. Okay. All right, I think I got it. Here we go. So the boys have caught themselves a snack. Where's Malika? She must have just gone over that ridge. I'm so surprised she hasn't come back to investigate, but these cubs have got full bellies. At first I thought I'd actually made a mistake and that I hadn't seen 3 cheetahs and that I'd seen Miali. Okay, as our cheetah boys snack on their breakfast, I'm going to go off in search of Malika quickly. It seems to be a mother-themed morning this morning. Let's go back to the lovely leopard mother herself.
Yes, it seems like it's breakfast time for all the spotted cats today. Thandi, as you can see, has made her way up into this marula tree, and she had a brief sniff of the waterbuck carcass, and I'm guessing she's going to move around, and she's calling very softly. I'm not too sure where the cub is at this stage, but she's definitely trying to call it, and maybe she's wanting it to practice its tree climbing skills. Where is the little bubba gone? Not too sure at this stage, but she certainly was calling it. You may have seen her mouth moving. I doubt you would have picked up the audio. It sounds something a little bit like this. Oh! Oh! And it's just a very soft kind of a grunting call that a leopardess will use to call her cubs. Now, she kind of ambushed us. We weren't expecting her to go up the tree when she did, so we are parked quite close to her, and we're almost shooting directly up from almost below her, which I guess you kind of get an idea of from the picture. So we may reposition a little bit later, but for now this is great. Joe, you would like to know, would a mother leopard defend its cub from any possible threats? Yes, she certainly would. To what level and to how much she is going to risk defending a cub will all depend on the individual leopard and, I guess, the attack that could be happening. Sometimes it just would make absolutely no sense for a leopard to stand up against any threats. Let's say a pride of lion, for example, come in. There's no ways that it would make sense for a leopardess to stand up against them. Okay, now as you can see, the cub is here, and it's calling its mom. You can see it just opening its mouth there. That was me, just to not confuse you. And who knows, maybe it's going to start feeling a little bit left out, and it may just try and climb this tree. Come on, you little rebel. I know you've got it in you. We've seen you climb a tree not long ago. So why don't you show everyone how big and strong you are? It will be so cool if it does climb up this tree. It's not going to be as easy as Mom made it out to be. I just hope she doesn't climb up on the wrong side of the tree. There is a risk of that happening. And I won't try and reposition the vehicle if in fact we are in the wrong spots. If she does climb up the same way Mom did, we're in trouble because it was directly on the opposite side of the street to where we are. Guide Monkey, you'd like to know if the cub would need to be taught how to climb a tree. I guess kind of through default when it's playing around and slowly getting a bit more bold and brave. It's teaching itself how to climb. So I don't think it's necessarily that, Mom is actually teaching her. It's just a natural progression. As the cub becomes more bold and playful, it kind of pushes its own boundaries. It's been playing around a lot in these kind of smaller fallen down trees this morning, and all of this playful action that we're seeing, even it's bounding about now and just climbing on this little stump rather, is useful practice for it. Shame, little cubby. Are you complaining to Mom? Maybe Mom's climbed up the tree as a retreat where it knows the cub will not be able to bother her. Wonderful stuff. Well, it seems like everyone's luck is on the up this morning, because it's not just Jamie who's got a big cat, it's not just me who's got a big cat, but also Taylor McCurdy has found one. I wonder if it's going to be the lion to get the trifecta.
Finally, it's taken us a while, but we've eventually got there, and I suppose everything has happened for a reason. Because if we'd come and checked this area earlier, I'm almost 100% certain we would not have found the marsh breakaway lions. Now, I don't want to say anything just yet, but I have only seen... Were there only 3 little new ones? Or were there 4? I'm trying to remember now. I cannot remember. 1, 2, 3 just gone past us, plus these. Can someone please help me and refresh my memory? Was it 3 new little lions, or was it 4 new little lions? I think it was 4. Which then makes me a little bit sad because, well, there's only 3 here. The older cubs have already gone past with the adults. They've seen some warthogs in the distance, but these 3 have now seen some ants. They look like little Matabele ants. Can you see them moving around on the ground? They found a raiding party. Oh, careful. Yeah, they bite. And I know how sore a Matabele ant is when it latches onto you. It's not very nice, in fact. Careful. And they've got such large mandibles that, well, if you were desperate, you could probably let them bite onto you and it could help keep a wound closed. I know they do that in the Amazon with the leaf-cutting ants. And they are very muddy. I believe you're all saying that. It's because of all the dew on the grass, and they like to live in this lugger. So with all the rain that we've had, it would have become quite slippery too. So that's how they've covered themselves in mud. Yes, careful of the ants. Rather play with one another. Don't play with them. And of course, at this young age, they're going to be very curious about anything that crawls around on the ground, even the ants. And it might take them a few goes before they really learn their lesson, that they're not to be played with. But I'm sure those ants will get out of there. I don't think that they'd want to hang around little lion cubs. Well, one of them looks like a little boy. That one at the back far right. As he flicked its tail, I saw a little something developing. Oh, they are so cute though. They are so precious. I'm just keeping an eye on what's going on to the left of me, but nothing important just yet. The adults have actually sat down, which is good news. But now you 3 need to catch up and run back towards the adults. The last time I saw the marsh breakaways, we did see one little cub that had a limp, and then it had healed itself miraculously the following day. But lion cubs, unfortunately, don't have the greatest success rate, and the chances of them, well, all 3 of these not making it to adulthood is quite high. Hear that one that's calling now, looking for mum. That's such a precious sound. I think they're building up the courage to come past. No, I'm so sorry. Please may I have that name again? I didn't quite catch it the first time. Oh, this is so cute. Sorry, I will go back to that question in a minute. There's just a bit of a delay, unfortunately. Fabiola, there we go. You're wondering, when male lions take over a coalition, do lionesses sometimes resist the purge? They can try, and they most certainly will put up a little bit of a fight to try and protect their youngsters. But unfortunately, if they don't step out of the way, those male lions will take care of them too. It's like when you get to the point where females resist mating with males for too long. Eventually they're going to take them out, because there's no point in having them around if they don't want to bear their offspring. So it's a very sad thing to see. Well, I could imagine it would be terrible. I've never seen it personally. I always talk about the Southern Pride and how clever Mandlev, one of the oldest lionesses in that pride, was how she hid her cubs away for a lot longer than what lions normally do, to trick the new young males into thinking that they were they were their offspring when the new male lions came in. It was quite funny to see, actually. I didn't think I'd see something like that happen, but she went out, she mated with them. She was obviously in false estrus, and that was the case. But I haven't seen it. Now, why are you three waiting around? I mean, you can't be too bothered by me. I've had you walk past the car before a number of different times. I don't know if they've maybe been told to stay, because the others are looking in the distance, and there are lots and lots of warthogs around. It's also the same area where we had the jackals this morning, so it could be quite exciting. But everything's still a bit too far away for the moment. No one, little ones? Oh, there we go. Laying down on the grass. Are you going to get ready to get up to pounce? No, just having a little look around. Now, the other cubs that are slightly older will move around with the adults, and they seem to be quite keen to watch what's going on. These youngsters, though, they'll have no idea. Right, okay, we're very quickly going to send you across the Mara River to Jamie, who might have an interaction between two predators.
Two predators indeed. Oh, and a balloon. The spotted hyenas have just emerged over the top of the hill. For the moment, something has caught their attention, and they haven't noticed the two cheetah that are busy finishing off a small Thompson's gazelle. But that could change at any moment now. There's a very definite sense that the hyenas have realized something's going on. And I think it's only whatever they're smelling that's distracting them, because there's definitely a little bit of excitement in the ranks. I've heard some giggling, tails up, so I'm not sure what's happening in the hyena world. But they are making their way towards these two cheetah. Speaking of two cheetah, I think I've made a mistake. I think I've worked on the assumption that this is Malika and her two boys. There's no sign of Malika. I don't even actually see any sign that these two young cheetah are males. I have to confess, I have a sneaking suspicion we might have just found Armani's daughters. I still can't confirm that, because I haven't had a good proper look, and I don't want to get too close to them while the situation plays out with the hyenas and these two cheetah. There's definitely no sign of a third. I've checked, I've gone over the hill, there's no sign, and there's no way that she would have left them behind like this. So I think it's Armani's girls. So we followed them a little bit. This is so out of their normal range that I didn't really expect to see them here. But of course, female cheetah don't have a proper territory. They're basically nomadic, so there's no reason why it couldn't be them. I'll have to double check. Or perhaps those of you out there with access to previous screenshots can double check for me. Because until they get up, it's hard to tell with size with young cheetah, as you can imagine. So until they get up, I actually can't tell you, or I can't confirm either way. If it is the two boys, then I'm a little bit worried about Malika and where she's gone, unless the assumption about her coming into estrus was correct and she's off with a male. I don't know. There's a whole load of unknowns happening here. Let's do a quick spot comparison. I'm not sure which is which. And until they stand up, I'm not going to be able to tell you. The hyenas they still haven't quite realized what's going on. There's something there that is, because they definitely would have come and investigated earlier. There's something there that's really attracted their attention. The fact that they haven't come back here, they know that there's something going on. They'll be able to smell it. There's the balloon up in the background. What is around you? Odd. Very odd. Okay, now we're coming back again. Well, I mean, either way, this is an interesting tale that's unfolding. Either we've got Armani's girls, who I haven't heard about in ages, or we've got Malika's boys without Malika. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coming in. I still haven't realized the cheetah are there. Nope, I think the cheetah have just escaped detection. The hyenas have changed their line, they've changed which direction they were going in, and they're going right behind me. I want to go, I'm thinking I might go and investigate what they've been eating as well. In a somewhat appropriate name that's come through with this question, Ready to Go would like to know if Malika's boys are, well, ready to go. If they're ready to leave their mothers. Yes, their mother. Yes, they are. It's a little bit early probably for them, but not by much. So yes, I mean, you usually find that cheetah will go independent between 1.5 years and 2. Often they will, well, not often, but there are recorded cases of young cheetah leaving their mothers even earlier than that. And it usually, that cutoff point is when mom comes back into estrus. So when she's ready to mate again, obviously male cheetah are not going to be all that tolerant of, they're not really going to be all that tolerant of a rival, even if it's a female rival. Mom will leave them, she'll be with the males, and the cubs will usually then, well, the sub-adults at that point will then move out, often with a sibling, which is the case with the young females as well. Oh goodness, the mystery. Okay, I'm going to pull up the pictures that I have, and I'm going to do a quick spot comparison. I'll get back to you on that. So, speaking of spot comparisons, I might be confused with my cheetah, but there's no mistaking Thandi when you see her.
Yes, there's no mistaking Thandi, nor no mistaking a baby waterbuck dangling from the branches of a marula tree. Interesting, I wonder which cheetah Jamie does have over there. Sounds like some exciting stuff. Not too sure what ended up happening with the hyena. I'm guessing that they possibly succeeded in stealing any remains. Having said that though, if it was Imani's 2 daughters, I've seen them stand up to hyena and keep them at bay, defending an impala ram that they had killed, which was incredibly surprising. I would have thought they would have given way to the hyena. But alas, they surprised us on that day, or evening. Not too different from Jamie's scenario this morning. We arrived after they had made the takedown and then got to enjoy the interesting affair that took place thereafter. We've repositioned the vehicle ever so slightly. Thandi has remained in exactly the same spot, enjoying a snooze. And interestingly, the cub had, the last view at least that we had of it, it had moved quite far away from this base of this tree. I'd say 30 or 40 meters. And it's a good example that, well, we need to send you back up to the Masai Mara as soon as possible, because it looks like Taylor's lions are on the hunt. I'm not too sure what they're after. Why don't you go and see?
Yes, you're back with us now. Now you can, of course, see that that lioness is showing some very interesting movements at the moment, and you should all be sitting on the edge of your chair now as they've spotted the pigs. They spotted the pigs from quite a way back. Now, there's, I think she's going to use the lugger. There's a third lioness that's gone off. We can't see her anymore. She's gone all the way off to the right. And they're basically trying to plan an ambush here, where one will try and sneak up as close as she can to those pigs, and if they do run away from her, hopefully they'll run straight in the direction of the other two lionesses. That's the most efficient way of taking something down, is sort of spreading yourself out, and wherever there's a gap that they think that the warthog might run, they'll be there waiting for them. So this is always quite cool to see, but they've still got quite a bit of ground between them. And sure, Alice, I'll let you know in a second when we can go live. It's just they're very far away for the moment. Let's just see what happens here. I'm just trying to get an eye out on where that other lioness has gone, because if she's moving in closely, then of course it can happen quickly. But they've got a lot of open space to cover, and we know that these cats are not the most successful hunters. Let's just quickly see. I'm just going to have a quick look. There was also a Thompson's gazelle that I thought had spotted the other lioness, but it didn't let off any alarm calls. It actually ran away quite quietly, luckily, for these lions. But they need to be careful here. They need to drop their bodies slightly, because they're very sort of standing up quite high, and the grass isn't very long here. Where is that third one? She's around here somewhere, but she was also still quite far away. She did a huge loop, which was the best thing to do. Okay. Right, everybody, for those of you, our wonderful internet viewers, we're going to do an action broadcast in a minute. So I'm just going to sit very quietly now, and then we shall begin. So hold on. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Mara Triangle here in Kenya, where we are watching a very famous pride of lions, the marsh breakaways, stalk some warthogs in the distance. Now, there's 3 adults here, as well as a bunch of cubs, and the cubs seem to be hanging back this morning. Hopefully they do stay back here, otherwise we're going to ruin the hunt for the adults, and they have put in quite a bit of time and quite a bit of effort into this. You can see they're slowly moving. Luckily for those cubs, though, they are little, so hopefully the height of the grass will conceal them, because they don't really know about stalking just yet. Now, if you have just joined us for the first time on an action broadcast, it's great to have you on board the largest safari vehicle, and this is interactive. So if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to just comment away, and I will be fed those questions, and I look forward to having some chats with you. Now, there are 3 younger cubs further back. They're hiding in the grass. They're still quite small. They're only about 3.5, 4 months old now, so they most definitely won't be participating in a hunt with the adults, whereas these older cubs that are closer to about 6 or 7 months old now, they'll be getting quite keen. That instinct to hunt is really going to be really pushing through now. Now, Ashoy, you say that this is amazing. It is. It's pretty spectacular that I'm sitting out here with wild lions, watching them what they do best. Now, when you are sitting in a sighting, when lions are potentially hunting, we've got all this big open space. It's important that you do give them room. And on a day like today, it's very still. You can see the grass is not blowing around like it normally is. So that means that these lions are going to have to work even harder than they normally would Well, I'm surprised they didn't go hunting yesterday afternoon or late last night, as the winds were gusting, there were big clouds building up, just creating sort of the perfect conditions for lions to hunt. But you see here's the problem, and we see this so often with these young cubs, is they just get too close. And Mr. Q, you've just basically stolen the words right out of my mouth. You've said those babies are going to ruin it. There is a big possibility. But if these lionesses are successful and do manage to take down a warthog, it's going to be the most valuable experience for these young cubs, being right there in on the action. And I'm sure they would even charge in and actually be involved in the takedown process. Of course, not quite big enough and strong enough to suffocate a warthog, but even just being there, learning, being kicked, being pushed over by either one of the lionesses for getting in the way or by a warthog. It will be so valuable for one day when they make it to adulthood, and if they make it to adulthood and start hunting all on their own. So I've only seen it a few times where the youngsters have actually come in and helped. Normally they're stashed away and hidden. Now, Diana, you're wondering if their muddy feet would slow them down on a hunt. Well, you do have to take things like that into consideration, because if a lion is running at top speed and all of a sudden prey turns at any moment, that lion has to turn too. And if the ground is a bit slippery, they do run the risk of slipping and losing their balance. So it can inhibit them slightly. Have you seen the other lioness, Craig? She was around here. She was doing a big loop. We hope... There we go. So she's still very far away. So we were hoping that there was going to be a bit of an ambush, and we lost this lioness. She disappeared into the grass where we couldn't see her. I thought that she was going to be a little bit closer, but she's still got a bit of a way to go. Now, Maria, you were actually wondering if they always ambush. No, not actually. Sometimes lions get lucky and they're just laying about, going about their day, conserving energy, and something will run into them. And then, of course, if they're quick enough, they'll jump up and grab, well, the opportunity that's presented themselves. However, what they're doing this morning is really amazing. And remember, if you have just jumped on now, welcome again. This is live. This is happening right now from the Mara Triangle in Kenya, and you can ask questions. So all you have to do is comment away. And essentially, they've spread themselves out. So, of course, you can see all the young cubs, but unfortunately, they're not going to be really involved in the hunt and the actual takedown process. But the three lionesses of the marsh breakaways have spread themselves out quite nicely. And that lioness we saw that was creeping further to the right, hopefully she can get a little bit further south of them. And all she would have to do is actually just stand up. She wouldn't even need to run towards them. Those warthogs will get a fright and hopefully run in the direction of where the other lionesses will be waiting, and they'll go charging into those gaps. So I think that's the idea behind the hunting. Of course, I'm no lion and I'm no expert at catching warthogs. Here are the experts, so we'll let them do the talking. But a hunt doesn't happen quickly. It can take a very long time, and they've got to be careful as to each step that they take. One wrong move, one crack of a leaf, especially on a still day like today, the warthogs could hear them and their whole hunt would be foiled. But what you don't know is that the third lioness is actually in a lugger, in a drainage line at the moment, that just runs off to the left of the warthogs, and she's gone down there, which is a very clever move. So now she doesn't have to worry about moving up in the short grass. Some pigs are running now. I don't know what's... They got a fright from something. I don't see any lions popping out just yet from that lugger. I thought maybe she'd come out there. But again, they are just naturally wary anyways of their surroundings. Pedro, you're wondering, where are the male lions? Around somewhere. I didn't even hear them calling last night. So the male lions that pass by this pride is a coalition called the Triangle Males, or the Chitwa Temba Boys. And there are 4 of them, but 3 of them tend to stick together. The 4th one comes and goes. Is that a pig or a lion? No, that's another pig. Sorry, I'm just having a check there. And those male lions don't just see the marsh breakaway pride, they see the Olololo pride. There's another 2 lionesses. They see a smaller pride up on the escarpment as well. So they don't hang around with the girls all the time. They're constantly on the move, and and they'll visit the various prides within their territory. See, she's very keen, so she's sitting patiently. So maybe now the tables have turned. Maybe what's going to happen is that warthog that was in the lugger that I was, not the warthog, the lion that was in the lugger that I was telling you about will come sprinting out, and then those warthogs should run straight towards the lioness that we were just looking at. So there's many opportunities here. It's a pity that they don't have a fourth one to go on the other side of the pigs, and then they really would have a good chance. But these girls could try. They could have been hunting for most of the morning already. It's quite late here now. Adrian, you're wondering what is a lion's success rate when it comes to hunting? It's very sadly not very good. Let's see if they're getting suspicious now. You see that they've all ears up. There we go. Lions running, pigs running, lion cubs trying to chase. No, the pigs are too quick. They are very quick creatures. There's still one just looking back, making sure that it knows where the lions are. Very good attempt from that young cub that we're looking at, though. That was very impressive. I've never seen such a youngster actually charge off with such determination, trying to go after a pig. I mean, a warthog of that size could quite easily kill a lion cub of this size. So they need to be careful. Warthogs, even though you've just seen how quick they are, they're also armed with weapons. They've got very sharp tusks, and the bottom set of tusks is like steak knives. Wildflower, you said you were very worried about the cub. It is a little bit concerning, but that's just one of those things. I mean, to me, that just shows you how brave that little cub is going to be, and probably going to show some really keen hunting interest from a younger age. Now, there we go. If you go across Craig to the left, you can actually see where that other lioness has finally come out from. Sort of just behind that tree, yes, straight there if you go. So there we go. See how she's come out of the lugger? She almost had it. Her plan... She had a good plan, but unfortunately things didn't go according to the way that they wanted. Anyways, that's how it goes though. Here you can see that lions unfortunately are not the most successful cats out here, even though they are the top cat in Africa. But quite cool to see the up-and-coming little lions showing an interest already. Right, we'll stick with this pride. I don't think it's over just yet, so keep an eye out for those live notifications, and hopefully the marsh breakaways will make another attempt on some warthogs. But from myself and Craig, it's been great, and we'll hopefully see you all soon. Hello again, everybody. It was a little bit of a pity. Oh my goodness. Oh well, let's see if they make another attempt. I'm sure they will. They're looking quite hungry. Those cubs are obviously very hungry. The fact that they jumped in on that hunt. Good attempt from them though. I'm going to send you down to South Africa now with Tristan. I don't think he's looking at a cat of sorts, but he's looking at something I think you find on the ground.
I am, Taylor. It's all about murder and mystery today, and morbid things, unfortunately. I suppose it matches the weather with the rain and also overcast weather that we've got. But you can see here there's just a piece of meat, basically, that is lying in the middle of the road. It looks like maybe a piece of liver from a small animal. Which animal that could be, I'm not quite sure. You can see there if we open it up, it looks something like that. I might be wrong. It might be a little kidney or something. It doesn't look kidney shaped though, so looks like a liver to me, and it seems to be obviously very fresh. You can see it's all pliable and is kind of quite soft, so would have been killed in the early hours of this morning. Now what animal made it is very difficult to see because of the rain that we had yesterday. The markings around the sort of site are very difficult to see. There's lots of little pitting of rain that is around here. But what we can see is over in this section here, we have a whole bunch of little scrape marks. So you can see scrapes there and over here. There's a few more over this section, and then another couple right close to the meat in this area here. Now this is probably our best indication of what this is. You can see that there is a little pad at the back, and then there is some toes coming forward. So this is in all likelihood a white-tailed mongoose. Herbie and I chatted about it, and he reckons white-tailed mongoose, and it looks about right. And it obviously has managed to kill some sort of animal. What that is, I don't know. Maybe something like a scrub hare could potentially be it. It's quite a big piece of sort of innard and organs, so difficult to say exactly what it is. But you can see it's still very moist, and even though we do have a little bit of rain falling, this is very wet still. So I think this was killed in the very early hours of this morning, maybe just before we got going. But very cool to see. I haven't seen a white-tailed mongoose kill site before, which is very cool. So lots of little interesting things today, and new and firsts for us. Now, the elephants that we were tracking are still going south towards Twin Dams. We heard them up in front of us. We've been following their tracks all along, and they seem as though they're on a real mission, because they keep kind of going on Twin Dams and just walking straight down Twin Dams with a rate of knots. They're not really going very slowly at all, and so I think they're quite desperate for water. There's very little water around. The only water that I've seen is at Chelapan, and even that is muddy and small. It's not in any way very sort of large, substantial water. So, Kirst, if you can repeat that for me. Sorry, I didn't get all of it. The comms are a little bit broken. Yes, agreed. So, Abed, you say you prefer seeing dung than seeing sightings of mutilated bits of animal. Well, I would agree with that for sure, but at the end of the day, it's also interesting just to have a look, and it's amazing what little signs you can find by being on foot. I reckon if you drove on the road, you'd probably miss that 9 times out of 10, and so it's interesting just to see what was left over and, you know, the markings around it, and try and decode actually what's gone on, because it's not every day that you're going to find just a piece of, you know, internal organs lying on a road, and it's nice to just kind of work out what's happening. But dung is certainly a lot more kind of not as sort of gross or grotesque, should I say, as finding bits of meat lying on the road. Now, earlier I asked you about what you guys thought this would be, and I had a duiker horn. Now, it is not a duiker horn at all. It is a horn from a nyala. So it is a horn. You can see if I turn it around, you can see the fibers of this animal that is there. So that's just compressed hair, much like your fingernails, so keratin. And then if you turn it around, you can see the thickness of this is much bigger. If I put my finger next to it, it's far too big for a duiker, and that duiker that we saw was a little young female, so it didn't have any horns on it at all. So this is from a nyala bull, and probably when they were fighting, the tip of the horn has just broken off as they were doing it. So that's what that is. Very, very cool to see as well. Not every day you're going to find that. We'll leave it back in the bush though. And so we're going to carry on. We're going to try to find these ellies quickly. They're not too far away, and hopefully they haven't crossed south over the boundary, because we're not too far from Twin Dams. And while we do that, I think we're going to go all the way back to the Masai Mara and Jamie with her cheetahs that are still busy feeding.
Hopefully the elephants haven't are males. The males, they are unequivocally males. I was treated to a view of beneath the tail. So they're definitely males. They are not, I don't think, Malika's boys. So I sent Elena a message to say that there were 2 males, and because she wanted me to try and help her find Malika this morning. So I said I'd found 2 young males, and she phoned me in a state of great excitement. And apparently there had been 2 mystery males around, where did she say? Entim and around those areas, so back towards the Mara River. And she's been looking for them, and she's got several guides that have been on the lookout for them, and she hasn't managed to find them since. So there we go. I think we might have an answer to the mystery male conundrum, but we'll wait and see. She's on her way here, so I'll be able to get you more clarity if she arrives before the end of drive. So I'll stick with them, and I'll help to. I'm trying to give her descriptions as to where we are. Go west, sort of fish. Go where the grass is green. It's a bit tricky. Now, Julie, you want to know if all cheetah have that neck scruff, and that's actually how I knew that they were young cheetah. Young cheetah cubs, very young cheetah cubs, are the fluffiest things you can possibly imagine. They've got this massive mantle that runs all the way down their back, and as they grow up, that slowly but surely disappears until they just look slightly fluffier. around the neck. So all cheetah at some point in their lives have that fluffy neck. In this case, it's because they are young males, or still young, and that's why that mantle is still visible. And it will disappear on these boys probably somewhere in the next 6 months or so, possibly might even take even longer.